Hello, this is Kevin with Bangert Inc. And today we're going to take a look at a pretty cool AI enhancement that can be added to your eTakeoff dimensions. It's called Toggle AI. And basically what it does is it's a method to take architectural plans and scan those plans for standardized objects and things of that nature, so the system can try to go through and assist in takeoff because of different, symbols and wall types or things like that that it can recognize and classify together and so forth. So let's take a look at what that looks like. On this particular project that I'm on right now, you'll notice that I've got one here that's green and one that's not. And basically the main difference between these are, one of them I've got some, I've already uploaded where Toggles already went through and quantified some things, and one I haven't. So to get started, I'm going to basically turn this little checkbox on that I want to basically see my toggle functions and so forth. I'm also going to go up to my control panel and I'm going to add another function into my control panel here for the Toggle AI. And you'll notice that this particular plan that I'm on that's green says that it's ready, and it already knows some things because I've already uploaded this drawing and had it try to quantify some things, and nothing's in my estimate yet or any of that information's used yet. That's what we're going to take a look at here. But what I'm going to show is how to take a print that doesn't have anything associated with it. So this particular plan here, you notice there's no data, there's nothing in here that it knows about yet. So the first time that I go to use a set of prints, I have to hit this little button here to basically tell it to go and upload that process and scan it. Now this does take a little bit of time, so that's why I had one page preloaded, and it'll kind of work on this one as we're going through. So you'll kind of notice that it's kind of a purple as it's trying to process what things it can find in that. So I'm going to take a step back and actually look at the plan here that I've got some takeoff, or that I can I've already had it analyze the plans on. So let's think about speed and accuracy. So when people do takeoff now, you kind of have a compromise between, how fast do I go and how accurate do I want to be? So let's say I just want to kind of focus on one little room here. And if I said I was doing some carpet and base on it and so forth, I'm going to turn my toggle off at the moment here for a second. I can sit there and do one of these numbers and just start clicking some points, and there I'm pretty darn fast. But as I start to look at things and so forth, I'll probably also notice that I'm pretty inaccurate in what I've done and so forth also. So that's where most people, when I start looking at, well, that's not good enough, I've got to be more accurate than that, that's where people start to really zoom in quite a bit on something, where they really start focusing on their corners and so forth. And in some cases, they're even taking time to jog around the doorways. So that way I can say, well, that carpeting, might go along here and up here and over here and, things of that nature. So there again, that took me a lot longer than the first time, but more accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one out for a moment. So let's take a look at what Toggles figured out. So if I go ahead and tell it that I want to enable the quantities and so forth from here, and I pick the same carpet and base, if I hover over that room, you'll notice that it's already quantified where those points are. Now, I could do a few different things as far as doing takeoff goes. If I held down my shift key, it would actually highlight other rooms that it thinks might be the same, type. Now, one of the things that I've learned from estimators through the years and so forth is, one of the problems that some clients have had with like using architects' numbers right off the bat and some of the BIM models and things like that out there is, well, that's not labeled right, or I'd like to go through and validate on my own and things like that. So, as I'm looking at this one here, I'm probably going to see people more. I'm going to click on that room there, and maybe this room's the same, and this room's the same. So, I'm basically going off and maybe I'm selecting. So instead of it going through and just highlighting what it thinks is the same, I'm kind of validating some of that as I'm going through it and just clicking on them as I find which rooms have that particular carpet or flooring or whatever I'm taking off and things like that. But you'll notice it very fast in doing it. And if I zoom in a lot, it even took those little jogs around, that doorway and things of that nature. So very, very quick. So like, even if I take a look at this room here, that's quite a bit of little jogging around and things like that, within a matter of time, I could start to do some takeoff pretty darn quick. Now, I'm also going to take off this room here, and I'm also going to show you kind of how sometimes how it's drawn may not be what I want. So if I go ahead and go with that, I've got 163 square yards of, flooring at this point. And as I come back and take a look, you'll notice it's done a pretty darn decent job of going around each one of those rooms very well. Now, with that being said, depending on how it's drawn, there might still be some discrepancies or things like that. So as I take a look at this room here, I might decide, well, you know, I'd rather see the carpet go clear out to the past this or into this. I guess that's a different room, so that probably wouldn't necessarily need to be changed. But let's say for whatever reason, I think it should have been down here or something of that nature. You know, you can always come back and tell it that you want to modify these points, and you can actually come back and just say, well, maybe for some reason I do want to stretch this out or anything like that. You know, you could still come back even though it's taken off some of these points and modify them. So that way, if you do see something that went outside where I thought it should be or inside where I should be or something like that, you can still come back and adjust them. So it's kind of cool because it starts off with whatever it could actually find, but yet I could come back and kind of modify some of it as I see, you know, fit, or as I see that, you know, maybe I got something I do want to see a little bit different and so forth. So I'm going to just back up and take a few of these points away and just kind of go back to that there. But very easy to come back and modify as I need to. So very darn powerful in my mind of being able to go back through and, you know, pick things extremely fast and also extremely accurate in, you know, doing my takeoff. So let's take a look at a little different version then. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to keep this real simple and kind of clear up some of my takeoff here. So let's take a look at like a wall. So if I said something like an interior wall, maybe I could do the same thing. So in this case here, I'm going to kind of use this information over here a little bit. So right now it's showing me things that are associated with an area. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm more concerned about walls at the moment. So I could go through and do something very similar. So, you know, as I come over to walls, I could pick them and click on them, and that way I could highlight multiple ones. I could still hold my shift key down, and basically every wall that it thinks is that same type, you know, it could go ahead and turn on. Now, with that being said, though, that's also where I can actually take a look at what it's found and just automatically highlight some of these different things. So let's say that I was looking for corridor walls. So in that case there, it's just taken off all my corridor walls just by basically turning on that one checkbox. And there again, I could come back and you know, review the links and change or add to that quantity and things like that as I see fit. If I go ahead and tell it that I want to add the interior walls here also, you know, so there I could see both of those all at the same time. And then I'm going to go ahead and let it take that off. So right now, you know, I've taken off 1,217 foot of wall. And like I said earlier, you know, depending on how things are drawn or labeled, you know, maybe I don't like some of the results. So looking at what I've seen here, you know, I see this weird wall in the side of my pool for some reason. So, you know, I might just come back there and hit delete and take that out. So, you know, very, very powerful, very, very accurate as far as coming up and catching my lines and things like that, you know, I think there's a separate one for bath walls in there. So they're probably a different moisture resistant or some of those type of games. But, you know, as you can see, a very quick way to do takeoff and very nice in the fashion that I can come back and, you know, even modify those dimensions off afterwards, that I'm not really stuck with how it was drawn if I think that it's a little bit, you know, different one way or the other on any of my values and so forth. So that's kind of an example of, you know, linear footage. So that was maybe my interior walls and so forth. Let's say I want to take a look at like exterior walls. Same type of thing. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to focus on walls, and same type of thing. I could click on each segment and things like that as I want. I could hold my shift key down and, you know, it would go through and try to highlight all the different walls for me. Or in my case, I could come down here also and say, hey, just go ahead and pick up the exterior walls for me. And, you know, there again, within a matter of a few seconds, I've now taken off the interior, most of the interior and all the exterior wall of this particular, you know, image and so forth. So very, very efficient in letting me do takeoff on these sets of prints. I'm going to go ahead and just simplify it again and clean this up a little bit. So let's say I want to count the office chairs. So I'm going to go up to count. Let's say I want to do some office chairs. We're going to use some red circles. We don't need to save that for future trace. And now as I come in here, you'll notice the same type of thing. So as I get close to some object, it'll go ahead and say, yep, the type of thing. If I hold down my shift key, it'll go through and highlight all of them and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and pick all of them. Now, if I back out, you'll also notice that it picked up the office chairs in, apparently we've got some here, some there. So because I had the shift key held down, it basically found, all the office chairs. Now, this is also where I could just go through and say, in that case, I basically started with my first one and picked it. And as I look through the list here, you'll notice that I do have, a classification for office chair when we look at it for a moment. And in this case here, I'm going to say I want to count another chair then. So let's say that I've just got a regular chair. And let's say we're going to make them something a little different. So then I can actually come back through the opposite way and say, okay, why don't you show me where these chairs are? And same type of thing. So I could have come back down and found, where's the office desk? Where's office tables? Things of that nature. So that way I'm using kind of their labels to find the different things. Very powerful also that, if I wanted to find all the double doors. So that way you'll notice that with all the dots kind of flashing there of where all the different double doors are, that I could take off all the doors in one shot. So in this case, I said chairs, so I'm just going to leave it at chairs at the moment. So now I've taken off my 20 chairs, but, very, very fast on single doors. Maybe I want them to be something different yet. So let's say that's going to be that one. And then if I come back and say, yep, let's see, that was my single doors right there. Maybe it's went through and taken off all my different single doors and so forth. So very, very powerful. I could still come back and say, oh, that's really not the same type of single door and take it out of the mix and things like that. So just a very powerful way for the system to analyze your image and look and see what types of things it can just automatically, build you a subset of. So now it looks like this is my second print is done. So as you notice, it's not purple anymore. It's changed to green. So if I take a look at it, here's a list of some of the different things that it's found on it. So, things for exit signs or doors or bathtubs or, whatever the different things are that has been labeled in that set of prints, those would all be available to do takeoff from, any of those at this point. So if I came back and kind of did the same thing and said, well, I want to count up the, I don't know. Matter of fact, I probably already got a standard trace for it. So let's say that I want to do bathtubs. So same type of game. If I come in here and highlight one, I could sit there and count them off. If I hold down my control, it would let me go ahead and see, all the things that it thinks is a bathtub already. Or if I had it in my list, or since it's in my list, I could also just say, okay, go ahead and take off all the bathtubs. And, in that case there, very quickly, that print was just analyzed in the session that's when I started the video. And now you can tell that I've, analyzed it enough that it's figured out that all those objects were, bathtubs and so forth. So take a look at it, see what you think. Seems pretty exciting to me. Like I said earlier, it seems to only work with architectural prints as far as today goes, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. Thanks for watching.